Welcome, Pewter Report readers, listeners, and viewers to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast, Energized by Celsius. I am John Ledyard from pewterreport.com. With me today is Scott Reynolds, also from pewterreport.com, to preview the Bucs Rams Week 3 showdown and what could be, Scott, we're not saying is, but what could be the matchup of the best two teams in the NFC/NFL. Is that crazy to say?
John, I think that's the case so far, right? I mean, I think both of these teams are undefeated. It's only week 3, so they're both 2-0, but still, I think right now when you look at the NFC West, it's going to be a dogfight out there, a lot of good teams. And you know what? The NFC South might be a bit of a dogfight too with these Carolina Panthers kind of playing a little bit beyond their years. I thought the Panthers would be good maybe next year, but so far Sam Darnold has proven to be better than I expected. We'll see if he can keep up that pace. But yeah, I think right now it's fair to say this could be a preview of coming attractions out in LA, right?
Yeah.
The NFC Championship game, maybe. We saw the Bucs square up against the Packers last year in week 5. They ended up battling out again in the playoffs. And I think that could be the case, an early season matchup, Bucs-Rams, and we could see it again in the playoffs. And, you know, John, the Bucs might have to get used to playing out in LA because that's where the Super Bowl is this year. So why not?
Yeah, I am a little bit – I don't think it's crazy to say that these are the best two teams in the NFL right now, at least.
Yeah.
Now, we've seen the Chiefs do this before. Start the season, horrible on defense. It's like, how is this defense going to win the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Then they get to the end of the line. Doesn't matter. Right now, the Bills are sputtering a little bit. The Packers righted themselves a little bit against the Lions. I still have plenty of question marks. I think the Lions are one of the worst teams in the league.
It's crazy to think John Gruden's Las Vegas Raiders are 2-0, and they beat 2 quality teams right out of the gate too. So
I have questions there too, Scott, but
Yeah.
no doubt, it's a good start for sure. It is hard to tell. I mean, I wrote this on Twitter today. There are 4 teams that I think fully will be 3-0. I mean, they have 4 of the easiest opponents this week in their matchups, and that is the Raiders, the Broncos, the Panthers, and the Cardinals. I do not think any of those 4 teams would be playoff teams.
Yeah.
I'm still not convinced that will be 3-0 is a great start toward getting yourself in the playoffs if you look at statistics over the years. And so there's a lot of teams moving in that direction. The way things look after week 3 in terms of standings is not going to last, I don't think, at least not in terms of the top teams. Doesn't mean those teams won't still be good, but no way in the world am I convinced that Raiders, Broncos are on Chiefs level. But I digress. We go back to Rams and Bucs. I do think, Scott, this is clearly a matchup of 2 top 5 teams in the NFL. You could make an argument it's the best 2 teams right now.
that's true. You know what else you can make an argument for, John? You can make an argument for fast bars. Listen, this is you're talking about some of the best tasting protein bars out there on the market. They come in 2 flavors, right? You can see them there on the screen. They come in white chocolate, cookies and cream, and salted caramel peanut crunch. And both of these are my favorite. I don't have this is like a 1A, 1B kind of situation here because both of them taste good. Decadent, silky smooth layers of flavor, and it's quality nutrition without compromising the flavor. I think that's the important thing here. Is I've had plenty of energy bars, or not energy bars, protein bars that are quite frankly disgusting. They don't taste good. These taste amazing, and these are the kind of protein bars that you want to help power you throughout the day, give you the protein that you need. And they've got a great promotion going on right now. Our friends over at Fast and Celsius, you can get these fast protein bars through the 30th, through the end of this month, for 20% off. And the promo code is 20StartFast. And so we're going to have that in the YouTube description below. You can click on that. It's going to take you over to Amazon, where you can save 20% on the fast protein bars. And it's really fantastic tasting.
Yeah, that's the key. That's what I can't believe is how good they are. And I love the salted caramel peanut crunch. My wife obviously does too, since we run out of those ones first every time. Yeah. But yeah, that's
it's
what
a great
the
grab
taste
and go snack for kids too. Like I got,
and it's healthy, good for you.
Yeah.
Not often that you can get that kind of nutrition without sacrificing or compromising on taste either. So Yeah, sub them in for your sweets, to be honest. If you're in, if you got a sweet tooth like I do, sub them in there and you'll be happy you did, I think. All right, this matchup, Scott, is one we're going to look at from top to bottom. The Rams offense, the Bucs offense, the Rams defense, the Bucs defense. Lots of great matchups on the individual level, on the team level, on the coaching level especially. But first, we got to talk about those players who right now are out for Tampa Bay or questionable for Sunday or out of practice right now. Today, Antonio Brown was placed on the COVID-19 list. And Kevin Minter is already on that list, backup linebacker, special teams captain for the Bucs.
Yeah.
And Travis John from the practice squad is also on this. So 3 guys on that list. We'll talk about Antonio Brown in a second here and what it's going to take for those guys to come back. But also Jason Pierre-Paul not practicing today with a shoulder injury and Jaden Nickens with a hip injury not practicing. So those guys' status right now, at least up in the air. I think we'd all be surprised if Pierre-Paul didn't play, given the fact that he pretty much plays through injury every single week. As for Antonio Brown, the COVID situation, because Brown, like all the Buccaneers, is vaccinated, his situation is that he needs to remain asymptomatic and get 2 negative tests in 24 hours. So that's the requirement for him to play on Sunday. And we'll see if that happens. Obviously, Arians said today it would be kind of gravy for them. It is Wednesday, so it doesn't leave as big a window. Minter was placed on the list on Monday, so maybe he pulls it off by Sunday's game. We'll see, but that's what they would need from Antonio Brown by Sunday if he can't go, Scott. And right now we're operating in the assumption that he probably won't play.
Right. And you know what? If he doesn't play, they're going to need a big game from Mike Evans and a big game from Chris Godwin. Those 2 guys are really going to have to step up. And also Scotty Miller. Scotty Miller will get extended action. Tyler Johnson as well, if AB is out. But, it's so frustrating, right? Because the Buccaneers, they did achieve 100%. I think everybody in the world is frustrated with COVID, right? For one reason or another. The bad thing about this is, well, first of all, it could be, a false positive test, right? Because we've seen that across the board.
Yeah.
And so there is maybe some hope that it is a false positive. And that's why they retest these guys to make sure that it's not a false positive. But then also too, with the vaccine, it's a situation where the symptoms are usually lessened. And let's hope for AB's sake and for Kevin Minter's as well, that they are asymptomatic and that they can cross these hurdles with some negative tests later this week. So it's frustrating, right, to be 100% vaccinated and then still see guys pop up on the COVID list. And we've seen around the league, John, some players actually miss games because of this too. So we're not in a foolproof society, and that's the real downer about this is you try to do everything right and get this team 100%, and at the end, because nothing's perfect in this world. It's not a perfect situation.
Yeah,
especially if guys that can't go.
Yeah, especially if he's asymptomatic. That would be just so frustrating. I feel like as a player, if you're feel completely fine and can't go, even though you're vaccinated in this situation.
Right. Listen, I've said it before. I've been in the Bucs locker room for 25 years. I have seen guys play in previous years before COVID. Sick. I mean, sick as a dog. Like fever, chills, everything, and they still go out there on ball on Sundays. And you might have, as Bruce Arians has said before, guys have the sniffles, but yet they're not allowed to play because of a test. So I think Arians said, let's not test them anymore. And at this point, I'm in agreement with that because it's just gotten to be where it's ridiculous.
Yeah, the hope is with Antonio Brown now is that because of that vaccine, that this may be a short-lived thing, and so we'll see how that proceeds. Right. William Butler with the $5 super chat. William, very much appreciate the super chat. That. Yeah, he says, how ready is Tyler Johnson and/or Jalen Darden due to the drops in the preseason and training camp from Darden? Lack of playing time for Tyler Johnson. I mean, I think Tyler Johnson's definitely ready. Scotty Miller's ready. I don't know whether Jalen Darden's ready or not, but in terms of being actually prepared and knowing Tyler Johnson's had plenty of time. Scotty Miller's had plenty of time. Yeah. Both super talented guys. Both bring something to the table. The Bucs have the deepest wide receiver core in the league, in my opinion. So if there was a player they were in position to be able to lose and be okay, it's definitely Antonio Brown. Now he's still a beast, so it's still a loss for sure against one of your toughest opponents that you'll face all season. I mean, you have two top corners with the Rams and Darius Williams and Jalen Ramsey. So now it gets a little bit easier for them, and that number 3 guy isn't quite as dynamic as he was before. So this leads me kind of into the most fascinating. I've changed my mind, Scott. Ali Marpet. Let's look at the Bucs offense, Rams defense first. But Ali Marpet versus Aaron Donald is no longer my top matchup for this game, although obviously it's very deserving. But what happens with Jalen Ramsey? Because we are so used to corners playing outside against Mike Evans. The top corner normally plays outside for every team. They normally play against Mike Evans, and that's normally just kind of how things roll. But that's not really been what Jalen Ramsey's done under Raheem Morris in this defense. He has played in the slot way more than he's played outside over the first 2 games of the year. Obviously, Chris Godwin plays in the slot more, and Evans has played outside almost all for the majority of his snaps anyway. He still sees some time inside, but the majority is outside. Is this kind of going to be the first time we see – I mean, have we ever seen Chris Godwin draw the number 1 corner in a matchup where Mike Evans was also active? Because no number 1 corners play in the slot except for Jalen Ramsey the last 2 games.
Yeah, and it's interesting and we'll find out Sunday how Raheem Morris and the Rams plan to match up against Chris Godwin and Mike Evans last year in Brandon Staley's Rams defense, which is different than what they're going to play under Raheem Morris. You saw Jalen Ramsey really stick to Mike Evans. Matter of fact, Evans had 5 catches in that game for 49 yards. He did have a touchdown, and I believe that came when he was in the slot against Troy Hill. But those other 4 catches were against Ramsey, and Ramsey actually did a very good job of kind of keeping Evans in check. 4 catches, 40 yards on 7 targets. And that's, I think that's probably a win statistically for Ramsey, especially given the fact that when you look at the Rams receivers, how they went off against the Bucs DBs. 4 catches, 40 yards is nothing compared to what the Rams number 1 and 2 receivers, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, have done. I mean, we're talking about in 2 years, 2019.
Hilarious. Hilarious levels of production against the Bucs.
2019 and 2020. Everyone wants to talk about Cooper Kupp's numbers, right? I mean, and let's do that. 20 catches, 266 yards and a touchdown. It's actually been more explosive for Robert Woods. 25 catches, 294 yards and a touchdown. And that's just in 2 games, folks. That's almost 12 catches, 150 yards per game. And both those guys are tough to beat. But back to your point, it will be interesting to see where Ramsey lines up. And I think that just like with Rob Gronkowski, what the Rams have done over the first 2 weeks, whether it's been Cole Kmet in week 1 against the Bears or Jack Doyle with the Colts last week, they're going to use a myriad of players to match up against Rob Gronkowski. It's not just one guy. They use safeties, corners, or I should say nickels, linebackers. And I think you're going to see some mix and match coverage against that too. And I think that at the same time, you're going to see Byron Leftwich, John, try to counter that and move Mike Evans around. You're going to see Mike in the slot sometimes. You're going to see him out, as a flanker, and you might even see Mike at some split end. It's going to be a very interesting chess match between Byron Leftwich, the former quarterback of Raheem Morris, when Raheem Morris was the head coach for the Buccaneers back in 2009.
Yeah. There's so many subplots to this one, including the fact that Matt Stafford has barely played against the Bucs. Like, he's been inactive 2 years ago, and then last year was knocked out of the game in the first drive. And so there's a lot to talk about there too. But let's focus on the Bucs offense here just for a second, because this is, to me, is where if the Bucs don't shoot themselves in the foot, I still think they can have success here. I have tons of question marks about the defense, but I feel like the one thing the Bucs have to focus on here is the fact that turnovers and penalties are killing them on offense.
Yes.
Pretty similar to the beginning of last year, not like as much just from the quarterback, but more from other players, obviously. But this is what's killing the Bucs early in the season once again. Remember, they had all the penalties. They got out of the Chicago game. They were like, no more. And then they cut it down. They still finished, I think, 10th in the NFL in penalties, but it was a huge decrease from the rate that they were on, which was just crushing the rest of the league. This year, they're 31st in the NFL in penalties with 20. 22 total flags against him. 20 have actually been called penalties. That's second worst in the NFL so far this year. So obviously not what you want. On the other side of things, the Rams have 6 penalties all year called, and that's second best in the NFL. So there's 2 teams. The Rams are almost always really, really good in this area under McVay. I mean, last year I think they were 3rd in the NFL.
Yeah, they're very disciplined.
Penalties. Right. Very disciplined team. They don't make many mistakes. They're very technically clean. They have a complicated offense that they run with extreme detail. And sometimes if there's a knock on the Bucs offensively, it's the details being lacking, the focus lacking a little bit for players and execution at times. That has to be on the Rams level, I think, if they're going to win this game, because I don't think they have the better defense. And they do have the more talented offense, but that only matters if that offense is operating at its peak talent level. And right now, they're scoring 40% of their drives are ending in scores. That's not good enough. That's good, even across the league. It's not good enough when you're facing a team in the Rams. Again, I mentioned execution, staying away from mistakes. They're scoring touchdowns. They're scoring on 58% of their drives, the best mark in the NFL. So the Bucs have to get on that level. They have had way too many scoring opportunities slip away from them. They won those games because they were so much far and superior team.
Yeah, they've out-talented their first two opponents. And now it's going to be more of an even match in some respects, not across the board, but in some respects. It's certainly a more formidable foe. I think we can agree on that. And when you look at the Buccaneers, it's kind of crazy because they've scored more touchdowns and more points than any other team in the league. So they're doing a lot right. They've even scored 2 defensive touchdowns, which I believe is the most in the league as well. But they're also hurting themselves. And that's why you've heard the refrain from the players and from Arians over the past 2 weeks saying we can play a lot better. Yeah. We're doing a lot of things well. We're 2-0 and we have scored a bunch of points. And what I like to see, John, is the red zone production, the touchdowns rather than field goals. That's been key in both of these wins. But they're also saying we can do so much better in the areas you're mentioning. The turnovers and the penalties, if they can cut that out of the game, and they really have to win, they're not going to be able to lose the turnover battle or have a lopsided penalty situation where it's 9 or 10 flags for the Bucs and 4 for the Rams. They're not going to win playing that sloppy type of football. They got to clean it up, because if they do, then this should be their 3rd win in a row this season.
Right. I think that's the thing. They are capable of fixing enough things to beat the Rams, but they just haven't played like that so far this season. And we saw a lot of instances last year where they didn't play like that. It's very hit or miss whether they were that type of team. Obviously, in the playoffs, they excelled at it, and so it was, finally we're able to beat the best teams on our schedule, where in the regular season, they really weren't able to match up with those teams, not because they weren't as talented or more talented, but because they didn't execute on a level that would say, we can beat a team like this who's very talented, not as talented maybe, but much better at executing what they want to do. So this is a big test for the Bucs, in my opinion, in that way. And it really goes a lot on the running backs. Like, these have been the guys more than anyone who have derailed the Bucs offense at times this year over and over again, and have gotten them off the field when they shouldn't.
When you say running backs, who are you referring to?
No, I'm referring to 2 guys, not one guy, as we have sometimes on the show. I'm referring to 2 guys, Leonard and Ronald.
Leonard?
Both of these dudes. Yeah. Both of these dudes can share some blame.
Did you happen to say, Leonard?
What are you doing,
Leonard?
Goodness, Leonard. On Sunday, Leonard was almost the GOAT, and I don't mean the greatest of all time. He made this mistake, Scott. He caught a pass from Brady. He's fine. Just get upfield, Leonard. Don't run laterally.
North-south.
Take the ball. No, Leonard. What are you doing, Leonard? God. Oh, my goodness, Leonard. But don't worry, because Leonard was not to be outdone. Ronald Jones came in the next drive after Leonard fumbled, because the coaches said, Leonard, you got to hold on to that rock. He dropped the pass for a pick on week 1. We're not going to put up with it anymore.
Are you talking about Ronald? What are you doing?
Ronald. Here we go. Inexplicably, on 1st and 10, Ronald Jones catches a pass in the flat.
Put the shoulder down.
Put the shoulder down. No.
Put the shoulder down.
What are you doing, Ronald? The next play, he's got the hole right in front of him.
What? Run it again. you had not only Tyler Johnson, but Chris Godwin going through the hole as two lead blockers, and you bounce it outside. Why?
And that's not even it. That's not even it. 4 plays later in pass protection. What are you doing, Ronald? You're in year 4. How are you still doing this to us? Come on, Ronald.
Oh, man.
Unbelievable.
Jeez.
So here you have it. You have Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones, and you have Giovanni Bernard sitting on the bench, taking it all in, watching it happen, being like, hey, I've been one of the best pass protecting backs for the last 8 years of my career. Can I get in, coach?
Yeah.
No, sit there, Gio, until we're down in the fourth quarter of a game. If that ever happens this season, that's when you can get it. Come on. Right. Come on.
Yeah. Listen.
Tired of it.
I'm just going to have to ask Bruce. Maybe not ask. Maybe call Bruce out and just say, when you say that Giovanni Bernard is our third down back, right? That's his words. He's our third down back and our 2-minute back. He's actually not, because you only play him half the time on third down. Leonard Fournette has seen half of the snaps on third down in the first game and the second game this season. So that's not exactly truthful. So
right. And I know some of those have been 3rd and shorts, and maybe that's not when you want Gio on the field. But still, it's just crazy. On a 2nd and 20 or on a 1st and 20, Giovanni Bernard can't be on the field. You know you're going to pass. Like, you're going to pass all 3 downs. Like, put him on the field. And so you don't put him on the field, and then you have Ronald Jones out there, and he derails things. So this feels crazy to say, Scott, but I really think the running back situation for Tampa Bay, it's not that it's not good. Peyton Barber was not a good running back, right?
Correct.
Like, objectively, just not a good running back.
Yes.
These guys are talented.
Clearly superior. Yes.
Right. These guys are talented.
Ronald Jones ran for 5 yards a carry last year. He almost had 1,000 yards. He's not a bad running back.
I just think they're going to screw
neither
it
is
up.
playoff Lenny. But
that's the thing.
It's
not that, like, on a down-to-down basis, these guys are like the worst 2 running backs in the league at all. It's just that I really think they're like secret agents trying to destroy this team from within at the most inopportune moment. And so far, Brady has overcome them, but now it's a better team. He's overcome them for 22 games, but now it's a better team. And so I do think Leonard Fournette needs to play more. I know I was going into the season, I was like, give Ronald one more last chance. And I still think that was the right call. He's clearly proven not to be up for it.
This right here.
Greg said any smart TC should send the house when Rodgers in the game. I think they honestly do.
And they do. And I think that's one of the frustrating things about Bruce Arians and why he's playing Ronald Jones less, because it's not just about, get him in there on 1st and 2nd downs. When Ronald Jones comes in the game, defenses, we're seeing them adjust to what he's doing. They're blitzing. They're either flat out blitzing and making whether it's a run blitz and Brady has to check out of that to get into a passing play, well, then they're still kind of hamstrung, John, because, if you're bringing safeties or linebackers up or whatever to stop a run play and Brady checks out of that, what's he going to do? He's going to check to a passing play. Then you've got Rojo right where you want him if you're a defensive coordinator. Now you're forcing him to pass protect or go out to the flat and catch the ball if he doesn't turn the wrong way, like he did on one of those snaps there. So I think that's part of the frustration with Bruce Arians, Byron Leftwich, and probably Todd McNair too, is that with Ronald Jones not excelling as a member of this offense who can function in the passing game, either as a pass protector or an outlet receiver, it's really limiting the opportunities that he has. And you're seeing, I don't care what Bruce Arians says, he trusts Leonard Fournette way more than he does Ronald Jones. And that's why he can start whoever he wants. When you start a guy, it's only the first play of the game. That's it. Who cares? Both of those guys, John, played about an equal amount of snaps, but they trust Leonard Fournette with the ball in his hands, which is why he has twice as many touches through the air and on carries.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's going to continue at this point. I just think that in year 4, you just get to the point with Ronald Jones where you're like, enough, like I can't do it anymore. Like it is what it is at this point, and we got to go with safer options, which is why Giovanni Bernard could play a little bit more. And maybe that helps the Bucs offense in this game. We'll see.
You know what? No, you're onto something there, John. And the thing is we've seen Bruce Arians be stubborn before, right? Let's go back to 2019. Peyton Barber was the starter, okay? And Ronald Jones really proved halfway through the season that he was the better back, like clearly the better running back. And even though Peyton Barber got the starts, Ronald Jones would end up with more yards and more touches because he was the hotter hand. But it wasn't until later in the season that Bruce Arians finally relented and said, okay, well, Ronald Jones is our starter. But like a month before that, we already knew that he was kind of the starter just based upon the opportunity. So I think that there is some stubbornness happening now, but I think as the weeks roll on, you're going to see more and more Giovanni Bernard by default. And then I think they're going to go back and look at it and say, we probably should have been playing this guy a little bit more than we did the first 3 weeks of the season.
Maybe. I hope that happens because he can play, and it's not like these guys are blowing it away at running back. Yeah, that's what always gets me. Like, I don't think Giovanni Bernard's some 1,000-yard rusher. I've never been under that impression. But it's not like these other guys are blowing the doors off it either. Like, just give him a chance to play, and he'll play. But we've beaten this to death a little bit. I still think we're 100% right, and it deserves to be talked about. But that, I think, is honestly a big question going into this game, Scott, is because these guys can derail your offense, and they've done it before for a while. So, they've got to stay away from those guys and get the ball and get touches to guys in your team who are more talented. Here's where I think Bruce is just absolutely full of it. I don't even think he's serious. And I don't know why he says it because he is a pretty honest coach, Scott. But why is he come out saying we got to establish the run in this game and that they're going to try to establish the run? He said the Rams are going to try to establish the run, Scott. That just shows to me, have you even looked at numbers at all? Like if in the meetings between these two teams, Todd Bowles has been the Bucs defensive coordinator. The Rams have handed the ball off to running backs 26 times in those two meetings.
They didn't even try in 2019.
No, they have thrown the football 121 times. I mean, almost 100 more passes than runs because Sean McVay, unlike most offensive minds around the league, is not an idiot. He won't run the ball into the number one run defense over and over and over and over again and expect to have enough opportunity to win a football game.
Especially when you've got the 30th ranked pass defense right there, right in front of you, right? It's like standing right in the middle of the road and you're the Rams driving a big semi-Mack truck, right? It's like, and now run them over. Just that's what you do. You don't need to veer off course and try to do something elaborate like establish the run against Vita Vea and Levante David and Devin White. No, that doesn't make sense. The way to beat this team is to do what you've done the past 2 years is successfully throw the football and make them do that. And listen, I love Todd Bowles as defensive coordinator. I thought we saw a lot of growth and change from him last year. And remember, Bowles spent 4 years as a head coach of the New York Jets, but he was not the play caller, not the defensive coordinator. He really had 2 years of play calling experience in Arizona that got him the head coaching job with the Jets. Casey Rogers was the defensive coordinator for the Jets, now the Bucs defensive line coach. But John, when you factor in the 2 years that he had as the defensive coordinator under Arians here in Tampa, this is year 3. He's really only been a play caller. This is his 5th year. I think he's still learning and growing and evolving. But we didn't see a lot of change from the 2019 Rams attack and the 2020 Rams attack. They were both successful. Maybe the points were a little bit different, 27 points last year compared to 40 the year before, although the Rams got a pick 6 on Jameis Winston. But my point is we really didn't see the adjustments from Todd Bowles against the Rams from 2019 to 2020 like we saw last year against Kansas City in Week 12 and then against Kansas City in Super Bowl 55, right? You saw radically different game plans there. It'll be interesting to see if the third time's the charm for Bowles, if he can really come out with something different to slow down this Rams offense and get their point production down, because I'll believe it when I see it. I just think that Sean McVay, and I like what you said in the Pewter Report Roundtable, we asked which Bucs or which Rams player should worry the Bucs the most, and you said, you cheated, John. Nope. You said the coach.
I did cheat.
You said Sean McVay. And I agree with you. I think that's a hell of a pick.
Yeah, it's because schematically he clearly knows how to beat this defense. And if Jared Goff doesn't turn it over 6 times, we watched it. We know, yes, the Bucs did do a good job in 2019 of putting pressure on him. They didn't really in 2020, to be honest. He really made 2 unforced errors kind of at the end of that game that actually gave the Bucs a chance in a game where I felt like they didn't have anything going on really on offense or defense, to be honest, most of the night. I don't really feel like, and Bowles has said this himself, even after the 55-40 win in 2020, that he didn't feel like that was even close to one of the Bucs defense's best games.
Right.
And then they followed it up with an even worse one the next year against Sean McVay. So this is very much a Andy Reid and Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes just torched you, embarrassed you. Sean Payton and Drew Brees and whatever you want to call the Saints passing attack last year just embarrassed you. What are you going to do about it in the next time? You know what I mean? What is your plan? What is your strategy going to be? And he had answers for those two guys when it counted. Will he have an answer for McVay? I don't know. It's going to take doing something he doesn't typically do, because McVay's rolled up 67 points and almost 1,000 yards. 1,000 yards in 2 meetings against Todd Bowles. It has been without resistance, other than Jared Goff's 6 turnovers.
Right. And I think that the good thing for Bowles and this Bucs defense is they saw a little bit of that blueprint in the Cowboys game. Very similar style of attack, where the Cowboys didn't really challenge the Bucs vertically down the field. They did it more horizontally with quick screens and quick outs to get the ball out of Dak Prescott's hands quickly. Remember, the Bucs only had 1 sack in that game in week 1. That was Shaq Barrett. But similar type of approach, I think you're going to see the Rams. But the difference is with Jared Goff out of the picture now and in Detroit, you've got a quarterback with a much more strong, accurate arm that can send the ball down the field. Another storyline is Deshaun Jackson, former Buccaneer, is with the Rams now. He's not gotten a lot of playing time. I think he only has 2 or 3 catches to start the season. Sean McVay came out and said, I got to find ways to get Deshaun Jackson more involved. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see Jackson on some wide receiver screens. I think you're going to see Jackson go vertically against the Buccaneers and try to really split the safeties or take either Carlton Davis or Jamel Dean for a ride. I believe that if I'm Bowles, I want Dean the fastest corner on Jackson, but stop and goes have been a problem, right? Because we've seen Jamel Dean sometimes look at the quarterback, and then all of a sudden that receiver, is, if you're even, you're leaving. And we've seen that before. With Carlton Davis, we've seen that while Carlton is great, he's a physical corner. Sometimes, John, when you're matched up against a very small, thin receiver that has some quickness, if you don't get that initial jam, if you're not physical with them, and sometimes those smaller guys, they're a harder target to hit because they're not big. We saw Tyreek Hill, take Carlton Davis for a couple touchdowns and a lot of yards in that Kansas City game in Week 12. You might want to match Deshaun Jackson up against Carlton Davis if you're Sean McVay to really kind of get that mismatch, because as fast as Carlton Davis is, he's not Deshaun Jackson fast.
It's hard to plan for the Rams. It really is, because they can run the football. They know that that's not the way to efficient offense is by running the football a ton. So they don't do it, but they can do it, and they can do it effectively enough to still get in good down and distance situations.
Right.
They also have a great screen game and a great motion game. And so you're always looking where Tyler Higbee is. They can use him a lot of ways. Yeah. They boot the quarterback out and
the hell out of
it.
And the
tons of play action. So it's tough for the linebackers to win in this matchup.
It is. And one of the more difficult things, and even at the Pop Warner level, that's one of the things that we had to really worry about with quarterbacks. Maybe not scramblers, right? Matthew Stafford nor Jared Goff were scrambling quarterbacks, but they were mobile enough to make plays outside of the pocket by buying some time, off play action with those bootlegs, allow the receivers to get downfield, and they would scramble horizontally down the line of scrimmage, not for yards, but to get outside the pocket and make a play. And that's where whether you're Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, or Anthony Nelson, whoever is setting the edge, you really can't follow that play action fake down the line and bite on that. You really have got to stay and look and see if it's actually a run play. Then if it is, then you can collapse that hole and work down the line of scrimmage. But if you don't see the ball in the running back's basket in his hands, you've got to stay on the quarterback, and you've got to get straight up the field and really set that edge. The beauty of some of those bootlegs is if you don't bite on the fake, that quarterback, remember, when it's a boot, his back is turned to the defense. You can add that intersection point where it can be an easy sack or an easy pressure.
Yeah.
You know, if you just play what you're supposed to play, which is setting the edge and make sure that that quarterback boot doesn't get outside the pocket.
Right. Hey, if you want to, put down a little money maybe on these stat lines for some of these players, you can go on over to Underdog Fantasy. If you're talking about these stat lines, you can go on over to Underdog Fantasy and you can play the pick'em games over there. On Underdog, you can select over or under on player stat lines. You can get a pick 2 correct and you can triple your money. If you get a pick 5 correct, you can win 20 times the amount of money you enter with. It's simple. All you got to do is go to underdogfantasy.com or download their app, sign up with the code PEWTER, PEWTER, and build a pick'em slip in seconds. And they're going to give you a free $10 when you sign up. So you don't even have to spend your own money right away while you
I love free money. That's great.
That's right. You just put some money in. You don't have to spend it. You can withdraw it if you want eventually, but you put some money in and they give you the free $10 to play. And their first $10 that you use is theirs that they're giving you. So download the Underdog Fantasy app, sign up with that promo code PEWTER, PEWTER, and get your free $10 today with Underdog Fantasy. So somebody said, I saw somebody in the chat, I can't find the comment. Oh, yeah, Horace, here we go. Horace says, so can we beat them and how? This is a good question, Horace. This is also a tough question because we've seen so little of Stafford in a competent system. Despite how long he's played in the NFL, we are feeling we're really realizing things about him kind of for the first time because he doesn't have to be a hero, right, all the time. And so ordinarily, I would say, put pressure on Matt Stafford, he'll make a mistake eventually. He'll force to throw somewhere where he shouldn't because he is a very aggressive passer. I don't know whether that's going to happen in LA or not, but I would still try to pressure him as much as you can. I'm not saying zero blitz him all game. The Rams will destroy that. But I think, you're looking for some 5-man pressures. More than anything, you're looking for how to get more creative with 4-man pressures. Are you using your best defensive players a lot of the time? Because right now the Bucs are not. I kind of get that in certain matchups. I get that you want to preserve people, but this is a matchup where I think if you want to win, you got to use your best guys a lot. I mean, Aaron Donald's playing most of the game, and I think Vea needs to play a little bit more maybe in these matchups. I also think that you need to play Joe Tryon-Shoyinka. He's clear watching him that he is ready for this. I told you this the other day, Scott. I know I'll probably get bashed for it, but I don't think it's crazy to say he's already their best edge pass rusher. I know he's not the all-around player Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett are. I'm not saying bench those guys so he can start. One-on-one as a pass rusher, he brings tools to the table that those two guys don't have, and he's already way more advanced than most rookies in terms of skill because he took that year off, and it's all he did, I guess. I mean, it's unbelievable to watch. He has all these moves he never showed in college, and so I just wonder if playing him more is the opportunity. You're doing fine with a 4-man rush. Yes, they have 2 sacks, but anybody who's watched the All-22 or the tape afterward knows they're getting plenty of pressure. It hasn't translated to sacks. It needs to. Jason Pierre-Paul has not been winning one-on-one enough. Shaq Barrett has won. Vita Vea has won. Even Will Golston and Sue have had a few wins. JPP needs to win more. That means you need to find him better matchups. The Rams, dare them. If they want to spread the field and throw the football, dare them to run against you. Instead of being the other way around. Bowles is always daring people to pass against them by stopping the run. Flip it like you did against the Chiefs. That's how you win this game, I think. Flip it like you did against the Chiefs. Play Jason Pierre-Paul as a 3 technique like you did against the Chiefs at times. Use that best 4 pass rushers you have. Get after Matt Stafford, and I think that gives you a chance to slow down this offense enough. But the real way, Scott, and I'll let you go in, the real way, score a lot of points on offense. That's the real way. Don't shoot yourself in the foot and score a lot of points.
That's right. Yeah, I mean, if the Bucs get over 30 points, history shows, 9 straight weeks dating back to last year, that they win the game. This might be the game, though, where they're going to have to score 40 because I think the Rams might score in the 30s. I just don't trust the Bucs secondary right now, from what I've seen, to be able to slow down this passing attack. We saw Matt Ryan pass for 300 yards and a couple scores last week, and he does not have the weapons. Calvin Ridley's a good player. Pitts is an emerging player. Cordero Patterson is a fine player, but it's not the collection of weapons that the Rams have, which I think is bigger and more vast in terms of it's not just 2 or 3 guys. It's a whole bunch of guys. Tyler Higbee, the tight end. You got Darrell Henderson, the running back, who can catch the ball, and he's an effective runner. So there's a lot for Todd Bowles to worry about this game. I think the biggest thing is and I'm still miffed as a defensive-minded guy, defensive line guy, that the Bucs only have 2 sacks. Sacks are not the end-all, be-all statistic, but you saw last week, right? I mean, Matt Ryan is not a mobile quarterback. He escaped pressure a couple times. Devin White had a clear shot on him. He just sidestepped White on a play. There were a couple times where the Bucs were winning the one-on-ones, but they just weren't bringing Matt Ryan down. There's going to be a lot of plays in this game, John, a lot, where the ball is going to be gone before a defensive lineman beats their one-on-one, because that's just how this Rams offense is going to attack. They're going to attack horizontally, smoke routes, wide receiver screens, tight end screens, etc. It's a very quick passing game that is not going to give you the opportunity to get a lot of sacks. However, Sean McVay is going to want to have Matt Stafford show off that arm and hit some bigger plays off bootlegs or even out of the pocket, just taking some shots downfield. When those plays happen, those are the plays where the Bucs front seven, whoever's coming, has got to win the one-on-one, and they've got to get Stafford on the ground. If they don't do that, it could be a very long day. In other words, when you have the shot, you got to take it, and you got to get Stafford on the ground. You can't afford to have Stafford be like Matt Ryan last week, where he only gets sacked one time. But if you go back and look at the film, there's probably an opportunity for 5 sacks in that game, John, but they blew 4 of them.
Right. You don't want to have that happen at the end of this game. You do need to get more pressure. You do need to have a few more sacks. You need to create negative plays early in the game defensively. That's how you beat a team with a really good offense, force them into a couple mistakes. Stafford will make mistakes. There's not many knocks on Stafford, in my opinion. I've been very high on him. I feel very much like Bruce Arians does, that he's one of the most overlooked players in the league because of the team that he's been on and how incompetent that Lions franchise was for years. But I do think that there are ways to beat him. There are paths to this thing that you can accomplish. On the flip side, though, I really think it comes back to the Bucs offense has to be really, really good. They have to be all that they can be. They cannot leave opportunities on the field like they have the last 2 games. This is a Rams defense that, now take these stats with a grain of salt. They've played the Bears offense with Andy Dalton and the Colts with whatever Carson Wentz is right now. And neither of those offenses throw the ball down the field that much. Both of them
Carson
are
Wentz
kind
like
of
Mr. Glass.
Yeah, like I don't really know. Yeah, I don't know exactly how much stock to put in this year, but they have allowed right now 3 20-plus yard pass plays. That's tied for 3rd best in the NFL. 1 40-plus yard pass play. 6.4 yards per attempt. That's tied for the 5th best mark in the NFL. The Bucs are actually, as much as they've been shredded through the air, and you mentioned it, it's really because teams throw at them more than any other team gets thrown at in the league. So it's a volume thing more than anything for the Bucs. They're actually welcoming that.
Exactly. And the great thing about the Buccaneers, even though it's the soft zone defense that frustrates a lot of fans watching at home because they're allowing these catches to be made. They're not really contesting a lot of them. That's why you don't see a lot of pass breakups yet by the Buccaneers. And aside from Shaq Barrett's let's face it, out of the 3 interceptions last week, 2 of those came on tipped passes at the line of scrimmage. Right. So it's not even that the cornerbacks down the field are making plays on the ball. Even Carlton Davis's interception in week 1 versus the Cowboys came on a pass that really hit CeeDee Lamb right in the hands. It just deflected up and Carlton Davis got it. Yeah. But you're not seeing a lot of interceptions. You're not seeing a lot of plays made on the ball, but that's kind of by design. And the reason for that is because Todd Bowles doesn't want to give up the big play. He wants to take his chances with you having to march down the field and kind of nickel and dime. And the longest play the Bucs have given up this year, John, is 31 yards through the air. Now, that may change on Sunday, but the way that this defense is playing with their safeties back, they are allowing the catches to be made underneath, and they're rallying, and I think doing a pretty reasonable job of tackling. It's not been perfect. We saw some missed tackles. Really, Devin White kind of struggled in coverage last week. But for the most part, I understand what they're doing on defense. They just want to give up the big play, the quick strike, because they know on the other side of the ball, and maybe this might end up being one of their downfalls, but Tom Brady wears the Superman cape. They know on the other side of the ball, if they can force a 10-play drive and a field goal, that Brady and the Bucs on offense, they're going to get a touchdown, and they'll trade touchdowns and field goals all game long.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. The whole how the Bucs want to play defensive. I think last year when these two teams met, The Bucs want to play defensively in a way that they say, throw the ball underneath, we'll tackle the catch, we'll rally the football. We have great team speed. We have great speed in the middle of the field. We have great tacklers in the middle of the field. Spend a lot of money in the middle of the field, obviously. Yes. That's where we want you to go with the ball, and we'll clean up stuff, and then eventually we'll get pressure. Eventually we'll get a turnover. But that hasn't been the case at all, Scott, to be honest. The Rams, this was the same match last year. It was like, well, the Bucs want to play this way, but here they are giving up they're one of the worst yak defenses in the league in terms of yards allowed going into last year's matchup. They got better after the Rams game. I'm pretty sure they were the worst going into that game, and they're the worst right now going into this game. 374 yards after the catch, Scott. Most in the NFL. 374 in 2 games have come after the catch. Think about the Cordarrelle Patterson catch and run, Calvin Ridley's, the Kyle Pitts catch and run the other day where Devin White obliterated Levante David instead of making the tackle. Like, that's right. You're right. Levante David has been a big Devin White has been a big transgressor in this area, allowing a lot of this yak. But even Jordan Whitehead, who's a great tackler, he missed a tackle the other day. And that is something that I know you're saying it's not that big of a deal, but not that big of a thing right now. But I might disagree with you here and say that I think one of the biggest things the Bucs have to improve is tackling. If they don't tackle well, they will not beat the Rams.
I agree, but all those plays that you mentioned, where most of those come, they've come on the outside, right? Where you don't have even 5 guys on the ball. You typically have got 2. You've got, if it's a wide receiver screen or even that screen to Cordarrelle Patterson, half of the defense is on the other side of the field. So I think what I'm saying is the Bucs want you to kind of throw underneath and in front of them in the middle of the field. It's those plays like the Kyle Pitts where he got free in coverage from Devin White. Devin White blew the coverage in that play. It was a 24-yard catch and run. Same thing with Patterson, and we saw that with the Cowboys too. Is they want to attack the hashes. They want to attack the sidelines. Mm-hmm. They want to go horizontally, get guys out in space, have a blocker, and make all of the Buccaneers defense run from one side of the field to the other. And so far that's worked, and we'll see if the Rams continue that attack. I think that's how they're going to – I think they're going to look at what the Cowboys did and said, we can do that, and we can probably do it better.
Right. And the other interesting wrinkle in this game is going to be blitzes. How do you do each teams to deploy them? The Rams do like to blitz. Nobody likes to blitz as much as Bowles do. Bowles is like blowing away the rest of the NFL right now in blitzes. Right. He's 18 more blitzes. I think that's defined as more than 4 rushers.
0 sacks from those blitzers. Now, the good thing is again, sometimes it's not all about sacks, because you saw on that second pick 6, Carlton Davis and Mike Edwards were blitzing. That was a very aggressive call. You bring in the nickel and the corner from opposite sides. Carlton Davis batted the ball up. Both those guys, those defensive backs, were in the backfield. That's where Mike Edwards caught the ball, in the backfield, and took it in for 6. So
where there's good pressure rates, sacks tend to follow eventually. Right. I think the Bucs are that's coming for the Bucs. I agree. In week one, Dak was had the 3rd highest time to throw of any quarterback in the league. And in week 2, Matt Ryan was 6th highest. I think they're facing quarterbacks who understand, I've got to get the ball out right away. There's a lot there in the short passing game. I do think sacks will come for the Bucs deep pass rush. I'm not overreacting, but I am saying play Joe Tryon-Shoyinka more if you'd like sacks to come easier. Right. Because he's good.
Yes.
He's really good.
I agree.
Play him. And stop using him as this like hybrid slot corner. He's dropped into coverage almost as much as he's pass rushing.
I agree.
Now. Like, goodness gracious, I can't handle watching that over and over and over again. Even if he is good in space, I don't think it always helps as much as it should. The other aspect is this 3rd down thing that everybody's the Bucs aren't very, very good on 3rd down right now. 39% on offense. They've got to be better on 3rd down. Not saying they don't have to be better on 3rd down. I can get behind that a little bit. 3 of their 3rd down conversions that have failed have been because of drops. If those 3 passes are caught, they are the 4th best 3rd down team in the NFL, which is a reminder that we're dealing with extremely small sample sizes. They hardly have any 3rd downs this year. That's what I'm most excited about. They are not getting into 3rd down situations. They are winning 1st and 2nd down and not even needing 3rd down.
That's a great point, John.
Right direction.
You're exactly right. And that's really something that the Buccaneers have done a very good job of, really since that Vikings game coming out of the bye week. They've done a much better job, and I think that was part of the reason for this 30-point explosion that we've seen now for 9 straight games, dating back to the Falcons game, which was after the Vikings game. That would be week 15 of last year. So You're right. If you want to cure your ills from third down, they don't even get to third down, right? Keep the chains moving with big plays on first and second down. And I think that's really efficient football when you do that.
Right. Absolutely right. And Michael Henderson's right. Second, way too early to establish a trend, especially on a small sample size of plays, like third downs and stuff. If it were drastically horrible on one end or the other, maybe you'd have a concern. But the Bucs are really just like middle of the road right now and should be one of the best teams in third down. And if they stop dropping passes on third down, they will be one of the best teams. So I'm not necessarily worried about it. They are one of the best on first and second down right now. That has to continue. And a big part of it is play action passing. It's why they've been as successful in those situations. And they can keep doing that. Aaron Donald's not teeing off every play.
Yeah, exactly. And, the thing, too, is like Chris Godwin, right? I mean, he's one of those guys that had a drop on third down, right? Uncharacteristic. Yeah. But what I love about Godwin is
he's got two of them this year.
Yeah. But if he has a gaffe, he's going to make up for it with another play. And I mean, that touchdown that he had in the fourth quarter was dynamic. It was a beautiful play right in the corner. I mean, he's elevating for that ball. Brady put it where only he could get it. And, that's what I like about Chris Godwin is he's absolute money. And you know what else is money, John? MyBookie.
I see what you did there.
And MyBookie got a lot of my money last week because my bets sucked.
Were they money for you last week?
I'm about ready to fire myself as my own personal bettor. But listen, MyBookie won't let you down. Listening to me and my bets, that will let you down. Don't do that. Don't listen to me. But enjoy all the action at MyBookie. Winning season has started off hot, even though Scott Reynolds is not. But MyBookie is continuing to crank up the heat with a $50,000 Survivor contest. Whether you're a new or existing customer, if you've made any deposit with MyBookie, you'll earn a free entry into the $50,000 Survivor contest, absolutely free. To play, all you have to do is pick one winner a week to keep your streak alive and have a shot at the grand prize. Start off strong with the Ravens pick against the Lions, who haven't beaten Baltimore since Lamar Jackson was in second grade, or ride a hungry Steelers squad looking to get back in the historical dominance over the Bengals. John, is that going to happen this week? Are they going to do it?
Buddy,
are the Steelers going to do it?
Listen, man, I wouldn't bet any money on a Steelers victory at any point. I think the rest of the year, to be honest.
Hey, either way, it's simple to play this contest, John, and win. Even if you don't have a ton of betting experience, which is why I always choose MyBookie for NFL contests. Head over to mybookie.ag now. Get in on the competition. Use the promo code PEWTER to receive double your first deposit and get instant access to the $50,000 Survivor pool. Again, that promo code is PEWTER to instantly double your first deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie.
Awesome stuff for MyBookie, as it always is. All right, Scott, we look at some of the general topics in this game, but there's also these individual matchups that fascinate me. You mentioned Robert Woods' stat line. You mentioned Cooper Kupp's stat line. How about one that might make Bucs fans feel a little bit better? This is totally bizarre. I'm not saying I expect it to continue, but Matt Stafford has been knocked out of the last game against Todd Bowles in the first drive of the game, inactive the game before that against Todd Bowles. So I said, let's go back and let's see when Todd Bowles was defensive. I know he wasn't the play caller per se, like you said, but he was definitely the defensive mind and architect and had a lot of input with the Jets as when he was head coach. And so what did he do against them? Well, only played him one time when Todd Bowles was with the Jets, but he threw 4 picks, 1 touchdown, and he got destroyed. It was one of the worst losses of his career, probably. So, okay, let's go back to when he was with the Cardinals, Todd Bowles. Let's see what he did then. Okay. Stafford, 2 pretty unimpressive stat lines. I won't read all the details. He lost both games. Obviously, Arizona was good. The Jets were not, so that made that game really interesting to me. Bowles actually got fired later that year. The Lions obviously have not been good for a long time, so that caveat needs to be in there. The supporting cast matters. But for whatever reason, and obviously the offense is a big part of it, Stafford hasn't played well against Todd. He's 0-3 against Todd Bowles as either defensive coordinator or head coach. And if you count, I mean, there's 2 games obviously where he barely even played. You can't count those. I don't know if numbers statistically would count them, but teams Stafford has been on are 0-5 against teams Bowles has been on, even though Stafford's barely played in the last 2. Lots of caveats, lots of asterisks. I thought it was interestingly enough to give Bucs fans a little bit of hope. Also, you mentioned, I think, Aaron Donald, no sacks in his last 4 meetings against the Bucs.
And Ali Marpet didn't even play last year. You had Ryan Jensen playing left guard, AQ Shipley was in there at center. Unfortunately, that was A.Q. Shipley's final game as he injured his neck.
Right at the very last play of the game, I think he injured his neck. Second to last, something like that.
Ali Marpet did a very good job on Aaron Donald back in 2019. Now, listen, Aaron Donald, you're going to see him move all over the place. He's not going to just play exclusively against left guard Ali Marpet, but in the Rams scheme, which is very much like Todd Bowles, it's a 3-4 scheme. You still have that 3 technique position that Donald plays, which is he will more often than not line up. I should say home base for Aaron Donald in this defense is typically on the right side of the defensive side, going up against the left guard in that B gap, playing a shade technique. So I think that you're going to see this matchup a lot. But, John, when I was looking at the Colts versus the Rams, you saw Aaron Donald at left defensive end, right defensive end, going up against the right guard sometimes. So even though that massive buildup between Quentin Nelson and Aaron Donald, that matchup did take place. It was not exclusive, just like we're not going to see Ali Marpet exclusively go against Aaron Donald. We will see that matchup probably more often than not. So that's really one to watch. I think we've kind of been campaigning for Ali Marpet to make the Pro Bowl, and I think, guess what? With Tom Brady and people are paying attention to the Buccaneers to get him some recognition. What a better showcase to do that than on the defending Super Bowl champs in a 3-0 situation, keeping Brady clean and holding Aaron Donald at bay. Brian Baldinger and a lot of these, Brandon Thorne, there's going to be a lot of guys on Monday. If Marpet does his job and does a job on Aaron Donald, he's going to get a bunch of pub from this game, and that's going to help his Pro Bowl push. He just has to do his part, show up and be the Ali Marpet that he can be.
Here's the thing, though, Scott. I don't know that I don't know how much they're going to play. And this was another reason why I took it off my top matchup. In 2 games this year, again, this is the weirdness of Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, is that you don't know where they are on any given snap.
Right.
And so that makes it a little bit harder too. You have to be aware of them. He's played 10, in week 1, he played 10 snaps at left defensive tackle, 10 snaps at right defensive tackle, 21 at left defensive end, and 20 at right defensive end, and 5 more as a stand-up outside linebacker on the right side. So he played quadruple the amount of snaps, or double, the amount of snaps in total outside that he played inside in week 1. And it was pretty much the same. The next week, he only played 7 snaps at defensive left tackle, 13 at defensive right tackle, played 14 outside on the left side, 14 on the right side, then 7 more standing up on the right side, more standing up on the left side, played 2 snaps at nose tackle. He literally, you just never know where he's going to be. They move him around every snap. All 5 offensive linemen for Tampa Bay. But almost maybe more so the tackles, given how he's been deployed this season.
You know what, John?
Have to be ready.
I think in looking at the personnel, because I knew you're going to bring up that point, and it's a very valid point. It's true. I mean, the numbers don't lie. But I think when you look at the Bears personnel at tackle and you look at the Colts personnel at tackle, that's different than Donovan Smith. And
Charles Leno is gone. Anthony Costanzo is gone. So they found the good match, and that could very well be part of it.
So I think you're going to see a pretty good deal of Aaron Donald inside. Now, they're still going to move him around just for matchups, right? And listen, we all like Tristan Wirf's game, but it's not perfect, right? And Donovan Smith, I think that he's off to a very good start this season, but he's not perfect either. Gave up the sack fumble last week to Dante Fowler. That's probably a play Brady should have gotten rid of the ball a little sooner. But you're going to see Donald move around. But I think this game, John, he's going to be inside against Marpet and also Alex Kappa. I think you're going to see him try to get that matchup. But, to Kappa's credit, Kappa did a very good job on Aaron Donald last year in Tampa in that 27-24 loss to the Rams on Monday night.
Yeah, I did. And he's did a good job against Grady Jarrett last few times, including last week. He did a good enough job on him. Sir Jarrett got him a couple times, but most of the battles I thought Kappa won. And so he's played well so far to start the season. After the preseason was a little bit bumpy, he's looked really good. But in those interior 3, honestly, Jensen's played tremendous football. We aren't even talking about that, but he's been terrific.
But that penalty, gosh, that was
Right, but that's one play out of a lot for him.
I know.
He has been a rock in pass protection, especially. Yeah. So, and even in the run game, it's a shame they're wasting some of these blocks that he has in the run game. I think he's looked much better than he did a year ago based on the 2 games that I've seen so far. So those guys got to have a big game, no question about it. And, Brady needs to play great too, man. Like, he was terrible last time they played the Rams. I thought, I said in the Chiefs game, I thought other guys were in the scheme were really at fault. The Saints game, he was getting destroyed, and that game was out of hand before it even started. The rest of the team didn't even show up for that
Brady
game.
Did not play that well against the Rams. He
didn't play well against the Rams.
Yeah.
Right. And he made some decisions with the football that weren't that good too. And I know part of it was not knowing what they're doing, and they did call too many deep shots, and the Rams were ready for him. But I still think Brady just could have played way, way better in that game. It got away from him, and you'd hardly ever see that happen to Brady in a game. And I think he's going to take that very seriously going into this game. There's obviously matchups that to watch for, but the Rams defense plays almost all zone coverage. They play some matchup stuff, and it gets tricky, but they like to see the quarterback, and they want to make plays on the ball, and they want Jalen Ramsey in position to see the quarterback and make plays on the ball. So, Brady's got to be smart, but I think the fact that the Rams are trying to capitalize on mistake-oriented quarterbacks, and they faced 2 of them so far. Where really Dalton's not mistake-oriented, but he's very conservative.
Well, pretty much.
And they faced a mistake-prone guy in Carson Wentz. I think that Brady's a different challenge for them too, in the way that he plays can actually counteract some of what they hope to do as a defense.
Right.
They also will give up the underneath passes and the short stuff. And that's what the Bucs did at the beginning of the last time they played the Rams. And now I don't know whether they got away from it last game. They look like they're better suited to keep attacking a team that way. So that could lead to some success, but you got to string plays together and have drives against the Rams. Raheem Morris, as much success as Brady has had against him in the past, Raheem Morris is doing a lot of what Brandon Staley did last year. He's not reinventing the wheel to his credit so far, and it's keeping the Rams defense in a pretty good spot.
Johnny, you're talking about smart decision makers when you're talking about Tom Brady, but that's not the only smart decision makers in the Tampa Bay area. We're talking about Amuni Financial. Those guys are some smart decision makers with your money.
At Amuni Financial, we help you live in the now.
Dude, congratulations. We're so happy for you. Thank you.
And even though the now may feel very different, you still need to plan for the future.
How's retirement treating you?
Oh, just fantastic.
I know I say it all the time, but you really got to come up to Colorado.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yeah.
We can help you develop that plan to keep you on track, so you can still prepare for tomorrow, today. Amuni Financial. Plan ahead, stay ahead.
John, I am a Amuni Financial client. Matter of fact, I've got most of my financial investments with Amuni Financial for that reason. Managing your family's wealth means more to Amuni Financial than simply allocating your assets. It means legacy planning, brokerage and advisory services, retirement accounts like I've got, college savings accounts like I've got for my kids, and insurance services. With over 40 years of experience, let Amuni Financial help you plan ahead and stay ahead. Call Amuni Financial here in the Tampa Bay area at 1-800-868-6864. That's 1-800-868-6864, or visit amuni.com.
All right, Scott, we're getting to that time where we've got to give our predictions for this game, our early predictions for this game. And I am going to step up to the plate and ask you to go first on this one.
That's mighty cowardly of you, John. I appreciate that.
I'm nothing if not a consistent coward.
Okay, I've thought a lot about this. If I stick with my original predictions, back when I predicted 13-4, getting crushed by you Buccaneer fans out there. I mean, John, I got obliterated in that SR's Fab 5. What do you mean you're only taking 13-4? What the hell are you doing, man? I mean, come on. I'm projecting the most win total ever in a Buccaneer season. 12-4 is the high mark that was set in 2002 by your John Gruden Buccaneers. I'm actually predicting one more win than that, John. That's 13-4. Okay. So I had the Bucs losing to the Rams in that prediction because I don't think they're going to be perfect this year. I just don't, with COVID, with some of the mistakes we've seen, with injuries that could pop up. If there's going to be a team that's going to do it, it'll be the Buccaneers, but I just don't see it, not with 17 games. That being said, John, I got to double cross myself here. Okay. I'm not picking the Bucs to lose until they lose. Damn it. I'm just not. I can't do it. Sorry. I can't do it. I can't. I can't pick the Bucs to lose until they lose. Why? Because this team wins. That's what they do. They won Super Bowls. This is now 10 straight games that they've won. 10. Okay. The party doesn't stop. It continues in Hollywood. They win. They find a way to get 30 points. That's the magic number. They win 33-30. Sorry, Matt Gay. Not this time. It's Ryan Suckup, baby. 33-30.
Of course, we're here. Yeah, no surprise at all. I thought I could count on you to be the bad guy first, and I was like, John. Oh, okay. He already picked the Rams, I know, in the preseason, but Hezo says pick against us, John. Then I know for sure we will win. I don't know what this means.
I love it.
I've been correct about Bucs games. In the 22 games I've covered, I'm 20-2. I don't know what he's saying. This is why I feel so bad when I want to pick against the Bucs, because I feel like I'm condemning them. Unless Hezo is suggesting that the NFC Championship game, which I picked the Packers, I was wrong about that one. And that's the last time I picked against the Bucs. So maybe there is a trend here in that when I do pick against the Bucs now, because most of the time I've picked the Bucs to win and they've won. So in following with what Hezo is saying, I am going to go with the Rams here. I think the Rams are playing, not because I think the Rams are better, not because I think the Rams are the best team in the NFL, not because I think the Rams will win the Super Bowl. I think the Rams right now are playing very clean football at all levels of their team. And I don't think the Bucs are there right now. I think that they're good. They're very good. I think the Rams are playing as clean a football as anybody. With the penalties, they've not turned the ball over very much. Stafford feels very comfortable in the offense right now. We know McVay's offenses tend to start really hot, and then toward the end of the year, they do have gotten figured out a little bit.
You're already getting booed, John.
You're getting booed. I knew I was going to get booed, yes. But this is my rationale for it. Doesn't mean I'm out on the Bucs or anything like that at all. I think that right now they're playing really crisp in all phases, and I honestly worry that the Bucs running backs might derail them a little bit. I'm worried about that, Scott. I really think these guys are destined to screw this team over. It's actually startling to me how often we have been here with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. So I think it'll be very close. I think the Bucs will assert themselves well still. I think it's going to be 26-23. I think it's going to be a little more low scoring than you do. I think 26-23. The Rams are going to win. They're going to be the ones with the field goal at the end of the game this time.
This is the week I take the lead over John
for the first time since I've been.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and not just that, but also just this week, this year. We got our pewter predictions and previews coming out on Friday as always. But we would be remiss if we did not tell you about the wonderful show that we call Pewter Game Day. That starts at 4:25, right at really kickoff. That's when the Bucs and Rams will square off. So the Pewter pregame is going to start at 3:30. So visit pewterreport.com. You can log in to YouTube, watch it on our Pewter Report TV channel. The great thing about Pewter pregame is it pretty much has everybody on the Pewter Report staff giving you all of the expert analysis that you need, plus the last-minute, late-breaking news about injuries, COVID tests, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to set the table for this game at 3:30, so log on. Then at 4:25, the game starts. You watch the TV at home or at a sports bar, wherever you want to watch it. John and Paul Atwell are going to watch it, and they're going to be giving you their thoughts and their expert analysis and their opinions and their reactions to all of the action during the game. It's kind of like Eli and Peyton, but even better. Why? Because this is all about the Buccaneers, and these guys know the Buccaneers. Pewter Report knows the Buccaneers better than anybody. So tune in to Pewter Game Day and watch that. It'll really enhance your game day experience. Is why we call it Pewter Game Day, John.
Yeah, absolutely. And Horace is not impressed at all. Well, expert, really, with John? Okay, Horace.
See, listen, this is the beauty of Pewter Game Day. You're going to be on live with this game as Ryan Suckup kicks that game-winning field goal. You can be on here
everyone in the chat
John.
Tells me to suck it.
Exactly. You can be on here ripping John live as it happens. You don't have to wait till the Pewter post-game podcast, which will be on about 45 minutes after the game is concluded. So stay tuned for that on Sunday night. But that's
by the way.
Pewter Game Day, get on there and give John the business.
Yes,
work it
absolutely
over.
Do that, and absolutely do that. I'll welcome that. That'll be fun. The best part about this is when I pick, when I picked against him in the NFC Championship game, it was like, all right, everybody on the show, it's a good nature, kind of ribbing and everything. And then after they won, for probably weeks, even including after I picked the Bucs to win the Super Bowl, people were still messaging me, DMing me, or leaving YouTube comments saying, you're a piece of garbage because you picked against your team. First of all, your team, as if I'm a fan doing this podcast. And they were like, they're actually like insulted that I would like not have faith in my team, like that. So that was hilarious. And I'm sure we'll get that again if this happens, but seeing it that way is definitely a perspective. Let's put it that way. But
exactly,
still have a lot of faith in the Bucs and a lot of fun action to come this season, even beyond this. And we're going to have it covered all on the Pewter Report podcast as well. You wanted to say something about Nate Pitt's comment here.
Yeah, exactly. Plus a little word from Celsius here. Before you leave, what's the top 3 Celsius flavors? John, you're going to go first this time.
Okay. Tropical Vibe is in there for me right now.
Okay.
Blueberry Pomegranate is in there for me right now. Oh, Wild Berry is probably the other one. Although Peach Vibe is incredible too, but I will have to go Wild Berry for the last of my top 3.
Okay. I'm going to go Orange. That's my number 1. Always will be. Let's come up with a new flavor, but you came close with Tropical Vibe. Tropical Vibe's number 2, but the cool thing now is that we're getting into fall. I like the Fuji apple pear. That's kind of a fall flavor to me. It's great, kind of fall apple harvest, autumn type flavor. I love it. So those are my 3: Orange, Tropical Vibe, the new one, and Fuji apple pear.
Oh, Fuji apple pear. Good choice. Yeah, that's an underrated one too, for sure. So that was a very short, as Alon said, that was a very short word from Celsius. That was a short word from Celsius. That's all. Hey, hard hitting.
Yeah.
Boom. That's come right at you. Tropical Vibe. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it. Celsius, great stuff. All right, Scott, we'll be back tomorrow on the podcast. Matt Matera and myself are talking more Bucs Rams to a degree, but we're also talking about the COVID situation with the Bucs. We're going to see what happens. That's the other thing kind of hanging over this right now is, we haven't seen the Rams injury reports. They're notoriously kind of really quiet about their injuries. And so we haven't seen that injury report.
They're also on the West Coast. They're still
on the West Coast. So we're not going to, right. I'm not saying they'll hide them. I'm just saying we haven't heard anything since the game. Darrell Henderson got hurt and we don't know what's status is. So we'll find out what's going on later today on their injury report. We'll talk about that tomorrow. We'll also talk about what's going on with the Bucs and COVID, and if Antonio Brown, there's any news there, or if somebody else. That's the other thing. We don't know is this thing going to spread? What's going to happen? We don't know. So we'll see. Talk about that tomorrow. We'll also have Hayden Winks from Underdog Fantasy in. He's going to talk about, some of the fantasy plays for this week for the Bucs and the Rams game. Somebody asked, should I start Matt Stafford? We're going to ask the professional Hayden tomorrow on the show what he thinks of that. Also going to look at some stat charts that Hayden puts out that have some really good data in terms of the way the Bucs offense has performed this year compared to where they were last year. So a lot of thoughts. If you're intrigued as to whether Byron Leftwich is doing a good job or not, Hayden is going to give us a lot of insight on that tomorrow. So that'll be tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern. That'll be a really fun podcast with the 3 of us. And then Sunday, don't forget about the game day show, pregame 3:30, game day 4:25. Paul Atwell and I will go through the game with you guys, breaking everything down. Going to be a ton of fun. So excited for that. Excited for a matchup between what I really believe these might be the best 2 teams in the NFL right now. I'm pumped to see it go down. I hope nobody misses this game. I hope everybody can play and we get both these teams at full strength against each other, because it's going to be so much fun if we do, because there's so many good matchups and coaching matchups and everything that I'm very, very excited for this one. So until tomorrow, 4 p.m., for Scott Reynolds and myself, thanks so much for listening to another edition of the Pewter Report podcast. Out.